Hi guys. So following on from what I was talking about earlier, I was asking the question, what does it mean to be a real man, or what is a real man? And it's a very kind of open-ended question, but I thought I'd do that rather than talking about masculinity all the time. And I thought I wanted to discuss what it means to you guys. If you want to leave it in the comments, definitely do. This is something where I 100% encourage people to comment. And like it made me reflect an awful lot. Like I spoke in the last video, just talking about how my paternal granddad. Like I'm thinking he's near the end, and I'm having mixed feelings. I'm sad. I spoke to my brother about it, and I know this might seem very harsh. Look, I believe I've tried with him. Like he's always been a very cold individual. He's never been very friendly. And when I was living with him, I thought we'll salvage something here. I was very optimistic, thinking, well, now he's softening up in his old age. But then accused me of robbing him and all this stuff, and you might say, yeah, probably a dementia or something. But he's always been vindictive. It's not as if this is just a new thing. And I always think, if you've got nothing to talk about, would you not just repeat yourself on a loop? And he could remember stuff when it came to money all the time, without problems. I don't think dementia is selective. Do you know what I mean? I'm very sad because I feel like it was a relationship that was doomed. And when I think, I know, and I'm even saying it, I feel bad. I don't want to say I'd rather one granddad be alive and the other not, but I'd rather have seen my man's father, because he seemed to be so strong and look after everybody. Took the burden of everybody else, and it seemed to be the death of him. When I think of all the stuff that he could have taught me, all the things he would have shown me, he seemed like a kind individual. There doesn't seem to be a lot of men like him, because a lot, in fairness, falls on women's shoulders to raise kids and to look after them. By the way, earlier when I was talking about my grandmother, and I forgot to mention when I said he was from Armagh, I thought I mentioned my great granddad, who like grew up there and he's from there. Never got to meet him, but neither did my mum really. But a tough man, and basically kept all the women from ever saying anything bad. And this is in like Easter Rising time that he's from. Like he sounded like a tough man. They make them hardy up the north, that's for sure. But I'm very proud of my roots, and that's why I feel like I owe it to people like him to stand up for Irish culture, and not to let it be shot all over, because he had a lot more to do than I will ever have to do. And I think to myself, I'm proud to call him a family member. But my paternal grandfather, my dad's dad, I'm not really, and that's horrible to say. I take no pleasure in saying that, but that whole side of the family, I just feel like I'd never learned much. And don't get me wrong, like I feel like I've connected more with my dad in the last few years, just through, like asking, can I borrow a few tools off you? Would that be all right? And him lending them to me, and him showing me, just to be like actually taking the initiative. I didn't have to ask. He just showed me how they work, just to be safe. That's something I felt like was missing, and I'm glad that we have that. Just even if it's something small. I don't really see my dad too often. I just feel like there's a lot of negativity that comes from it. But I think rather than pissing and moaning about it, which I know I do a lot of, believe me, salvage something with my dad. I'd be very upset if I had no relationship with him at all. And I think there is something salvageable there, even if it's not massive. I'm not the type to cut all ties with people. I just want to make that clear. And I'd be very upset when my granddad dies, more so because it'll be like, what did I learn? All those years of potential wisdom, and I didn't get anything really. Just got told, me and my brother, that we were overweight, made fun of, made to feel like the duds of the family, essentially. And I talked about that in the previous video, at the start, like just talking about what I hope to gain from January, this year in 2025. And that's something that I've learned, that I will not be sticking my neck out for anyone who wouldn't do the same for me. And that includes family, you know. Um, so on the day of the funeral, like when he does eventually pop his clogs, for want of a better word, or kick the bucket, and all these horrible expressions. But it's going to be very hard, and not for the reasons you might think. Sorry, one more. Sorry, um, Alfie was calling, and I don't just love him when the camera's on. I love him to bits all the time. But yeah, like I was saying there, just I'll have mixed opinions, about what could have been, and when the actual day comes, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. But yeah, safe to say, I do feel let down by all the men in my family anyway. Just feel like they were never really there. They were very critical. They didn't really teach me much. They were just very critical, and felt like nothing I did was ever good enough. Even though other people seemed to think it was. You know, they were telling me how wonderful I was, but I never believed it. I never truly believed it, and I think that's why I was always trying to achieve something, especially in sport, because you're thinking, if I can be macho, and you have all these misguided ideas of what being a man is. I have to be macho. I have to fight. I have to be ready to go. And I was just not being myself. I was trying to portray an image that just is not me. I'm finally not doing that. I'm finally being me and being very comfortable in being me, you know. More so. I wouldn't say comfortable, but I'm getting a lot better at it. And as I say, being a good man is someone who people aspire to be, not things that they aspire to have. You want the flashy Ferrari, the Maserati, all these cars, this insane wealth, but you treat everybody like shit. You just flaunt your wealth. Um, that's not a real man. That's someone masquerading as a real man. Like, look at the likes of Andrew Tate. He's a con man. That's all he is. He scams people out of their money. Vulnerable young men who pay for his bullshit program on how to pimp women. He's a misogynist, and that's not a real man. First and foremost, I think a real man as well treats women with respect. That would be my thinking, you know? Which is why I keep talking about it, baffling me when I see good looking, intelligent women accepting shitty behaviour and shitty treatment. And be like, do you not have any respect for yourself? Why would you let that prick treat you that way? It and is it kind of like any women who like this channel? Can you let me know if before it becomes a manosphere channel? But any women in the comments, let me know. Like, is it like seeing it as a project with a bad man? You think, oh, I can fix him. That seems to be what I hear a lot. I can fix him. I can make him a better man. I don't think you can. I think you're thinking very wishfully, very wishful thinking indeed. Jordan Peterson talks about it like, oh, you need to be a monster. Women don't want weak, tame men and all this stuff. But I mean, he's right. Because of course you want your man to be able to defend you. Obviously, and that I think that's the bare minimum. That's fair enough. If shit hits the fan, of course you don't want me cowering behind you like that. But I also think I'm right in saying you don't want me going around threatening everybody being an arsehole. And yet I see so many, as I say, good looking, very attractive, very intelligent, um, and pleasant women. Not even like, because you can be attractive and intelligent and be an arsehole. But they're not. They're nice people, but they go out with these complete fucking dickheads. And I'm saying it time and time again, and I'm there thinking, do you think that because you're a nice person, you're empathetic, and you think, oh, this guy needs to be fixed, and I will be the one to fix him? Is that what it is? um, okay, fair enough. But I don't get it. I'll just say that. I don't get it. And I'm seeing these bad men, and I consider them bad men, and they're ending up with a lot of women. Now, I guess a lot of shallow women will like money and they like flashy suits and all this. You know, they want a man with status. I think that kind of is true of a lot of women, but in particular, if you're shallow, you're gonna just want whoever has the most money. But that shit fades, you know, really does. And yeah, look, the ultimate goal I think of any man is to find a good woman, and vice versa. And you think to yourself, oh yeah, dating apps. Like, my dad said it loads of times when I've gone out on dates and then they haven't worked out. He's just said to me, "Oh, sure, it's the best time to date." This is why I don't go to him for advice. FYI, best time to date. Well, the stats wouldn't say that, would they? Because what's actually happening is, I mean, men want to shag everything that moves. Let's say it as it is. Whereas women are more selective. They're like, oh, you know, I like the look of him. He's handsome. He's a good job. Men are like, oh, she's blonde hair, blue eyes, and I don't mean to be cruel, but massive tits and a massive arse. I've been trying my best, but I can't. We all know what men are like, don't we? You know, we don't have to beat around the bush, metaphorically speaking. But there's a lot of very shallow men, of course. And I think women will be a lot more selective, particularly on. Like, I'm attracted to a woman with a good, not with a good job, but with ambition, you know? I think I might be unique in that regard. If I see a woman with a college degree, I'm like, she's a lot more attractive. And not because I can leech off or because she's obviously trying to better herself. I think that way. I think that's how women will think more so. I'm not the type of guy who's like, oh yeah, massive tits, massive arse, blonde hair, blue eyes, but the fake big puffy duck lips, all the fillers and everything. To me, that just screams shallow, and I don't find that attractive at all. And look, I'm sure there's plenty of people that don't find me attractive. I'm perfectly willing to accept that. Um, that's perfectly a fair argument. But that's just my preference, you know. And I don't think being picky is bad, you know. If you've good chemistry with someone, go for it, you know. You'll find love in the strangest places. um, but I think what we're really lacking, and what I'd like to be for the future generations of men, let's bring it back to men. Um, let's always bring it back to men. Men are the problem, men are the solution. And I think what my generation of men should be doing, and I'm talking about the Gen Z type because that's unfortunately the generation I'm from. I feel like the Gen X and the, so that'll be like people who are in their 50s and 60s. Well, more so 50s, you know. I think boomers would be more so 60s. My parents aren't far off 60 now. Jesus, that's mad to say, but them and I think millennials is kind of in between. They haven't been great role models, I don't think, particularly like the millennials. The Gen Xers are kind of like, oh, you know, everything's great, and, you know, everything's much better than it ever was for you. And I get that they were optimistic, you know, because previous generations had to fight in wars, so everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, well, everything's better now. There was a lot of optimism, I think, with boomers and Gen Xers. Then millennials are kind of like, oh, the technological age, and that was the big introduction. And I think Gen Z has been shot all over completely, and that's something I keep using because there's a lot of shitting all over people. But it's true, you know, like it's just, oh, Gen Z are all bad, you know, they're all lazy, they're all weak, you know, men are more effeminate, they're not real men. How can they be real men when all you do is tell us how we're wrong, and schools don't encourage you to be a real man? If you have a fight with someone, if you have a physical altercation, you get in more trouble than if someone has been giving you lots of verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is seen as fine, and that's a very feminine thing. Women are more catty and bitchy. They go behind people's backs, they try and destroy people's reputations. And I think we reward that in men nowadays rather than actual, you know, hand to hand combat, you know, like a proper fight. And it seems like the only time other men will call someone out is if they know they're going to win or they're going to get their mates to come after you. That's a cowardly act. You know, I was only talking about a mate of mine who has a popular Instagram channel if you want to check it out. Robin Tupovoy. He's Maori and Samoan. I think I got the pronunciations right. Kia ora whānau. To any Kiwis watching out there, any Maoris. It's an interesting language. Maori, Polynesian. Told you I love the Polynesians. But he's a big guy, He's Pacific Islander, and I was saying big fucker, like massive. But with three of his mates, 8 lads jumped him with knives. They attacked him with knives and seriously injure one of his mates and injure him. And he said it himself in the video. It's a good video if you want to check it out. But I think might have been deleted, but I think he would have saved it to his story. This happened in Sydney where he lives. I played rugby with this guy, lovely fella. But he said it, he's like, we were never going to win, like you've jumped us, you've caught us by surprise, you've attacked us with knives, there's more of you. That is unfortunately what we are cultivating nowadays. Like, there is no honour, there is no fair fight. It's more so, I want to win. That's the attitude that we're kind of having. It's one of cheating, and it doesn't matter how I win as long as I win. That's the most important thing, is that I have that gold medal around my neck. It's not how I got there. We don't encourage fair play. We don't encourage people to try and fail. We just encourage the end. We encourage the end product rather than the hard work that goes into it. And that's a good quote right there. I think that's something that we should really look at. I didn't realise just how important school years are for young people developing. And again, I come at it from young men point of view, because they need role models. Like, I think with women, they tend to talk more to each other and actually share problems. With men, it's kind of like, what do I aspire to be like? Who do I want to be like? What do I want to do with my life? I didn't know any of that. I didn't know who I wanted to be like, what set of values, and that leaves you vulnerable. You're kind of like, do I do this? Do I do that? Like, where the fuck am I coming or going? And I'm not alone in that. And I see these young fellas that I'm coaching who are good young fellas, that they're not, most of them aren't troublemakers. I would say I'm willing to bet that they're good lads outside of school as well, not getting into trouble like I did. Well, I wasn't that bad, like there's a lot worse than what I was. Was only talking to my mate Noel when I met up with him before the new year about seemed to be a thing with young fellas in Ireland where we light bins on fire and start drinking cans. Ah yes, not my proudest moment, but I've come a long way since then, let me tell you. But if we don't do something, and if we keep shaming young men, we are going to create generations of absolute fucking handbags, and that's not their fault, that's our fault. I I'm willing to take some responsibility, sure, like people are the way they are as well. We have to accept that there are different personality types. Like, to give you an example, you could be from a military family. Let's take Rupert Everett for instance. If anyone doesn't know, he voices Prince Charming in Shrek. But his dad was a military man, and out hunting and doing all these macho things. But Rupert is gay and said he preferred to be with women chatting, and that's just how he is. That's his makeup. He puts on makeup actually, I think. But that's who he is. He's not. I think he's bisexual, maybe, but more so into men. He was talking about it before Piers Morgan. Interesting man though, but it fucked him up, like not having the approval of his dad, and there has to be a level of acceptance for who you are at your core. Not every son of a macho man is going to end up the exact same. Of course not. There's differing personality types, but you can still look up to your dad and be like, yeah, he accepted me. Like, you look at another gay man, Alan Carr, chatty man, and his dad being a football coach, who has actually made an effort despite being quite a stern Northern English fella. But it was a funny line when Alan Carr said it, where he was like, "No, we're gonna watch Alan's show, RuPaul. Oh God, it's a man in a dress." But he tried, and they joked about it. So I just have an itch. You know when you get dead skin on your ear and it gets really itchy. Uh, clean my ears out and all, and but I can never manage to get all the dead skin. I know, nasty, right? But they obviously have a very good relationship despite being completely different people. And I wouldn't say that me and my dad are completely different in certain ways. You know, I do like sport, and I always thought it was a great way of connecting. But there were an awful lot of times where I felt ashamed of myself because I wasn't as good as somebody else, or I took a bit longer to pick up on stuff. I worked so fucking hard to be the toughest guy and to be known as the hard man, and but it's not me, not at my core, you know. And I'm gonna make a video actually where I'm kind of highlighting when I was playing rugby, and I've got a few clips of me actually playing that I'd like to show you, just to kind of talk you through what I was going through. Might seem a bit arrogant, I know, but it's actually I want to show you how much I was critiquing myself after the game, and you'll kind of see I didn't really put a foot wrong. Yeah, I was the type to watch. If there was any footage of me playing, I would watch the thing, you know, till the cows come home, criticising myself for how poorly I'd played, even if I've got man in the match. So I just want to kind of show you that, but I'll do that in the future. Um, it's very toxic. It's an extremely toxic mindset to be in, and I think shaming is a thing that was used on me a lot. You know, to be better. You know, look at the stadium. You know, you're overweight. You need to get thinner. So I would flog myself in the gym. Um, you know, but then I felt like I had to be stronger because you know something stupid like a lad beat me in an arm wrestle. Oh, I've got to get stronger. So flogging myself in the gym again. You know, going on massive runs, but then burning myself out and not eating enough because you have to be thinner. So it's, you know, fat is bad. You're not allowed to be fat, but then you have to be strong too. But I wasn't eating enough calories. How am I going to be strong? Um, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like real men accept you for who you are, treat you with respect, but they expect it back. You know, and if you're not trying or you're being lazy or whatever, fair enough. They're the types that are going to call you out, but they accept you for who you are. I've seen men, like I say, who will accept their kids for who they are. Like you might have siblings, brothers in a family, you know, and one is completely different from the other. You're never going to get the same personality type. Like there's me and my brother are very similar in some ways, and then the others were not. In fact, in a very different way, like we had different responses to all the bullshit that was going on in our lives. He struggled to leave the house. I went out drinking and causing chaos and getting myself into trouble. So there you go, you know, having so much bullshit piled in on top of me and not having anyone to kind of base it off and go, I want to be like them. You know, and then, as you say, the adults in my life who could have helped me achieve my dream of rugby. Look, I know I've harped on enough about that. That's fair. So I'm not going to do that anymore. If you've watched my videos up to this point, you'll know. But you can check out plenty of them, and I discuss rugby and being let down and what have you. I'm a firm believer that you can't have success on your own. You've got to have good people around you. You know, we're not built as human beings to be alone. We've got to have people as a support network. Um, and I think I've turned out alright considering all the shit that I've had. Like, I look out for the little man. I care, which is the thing, you know. I will feel ashamed of myself for not acting in a particular manner when other people haven't even considered anybody else. They don't care. And that's one thing I hate about today's day and age. There is very little care for our fellow man, you know, and that's something I don't like. I've always been a caring person. I can be a very agitated person as well, you know. Like, I feel like I only had a row with my brother last night, and I felt really bad about it, you know, because I can be a prick. I can be a prick to him, you know. It's more than just sibling rivalry or whatever. I can just be hard on him, and it's not fair. And I keep doing it, you know. I keep fucking up, but I'm getting better, you know. Like when I talk about the Ireland game against Australia, I was disappointed. I wanted to go with him to the game, you know, and I thought, look, push through it. You know, you've done all this therapy. I'll take a moment with you. We'll have a deep breath. for a few moments, like, not a problem, I'll wait with you. And I thought that was empathetic. And then I said, look, I'm not blaming you. I just think, is all the therapy you're doing working? Because you were able to go to a game with me before. I just don't. I think we need to reevaluate. And I thought that was a very empathetic approach. Real men are empathetic. Um, they're not harsh on people, you know. Um, yeah, sometimes I get really annoyed at myself with how harsh I can be. You know, I feel like, oh, that was a dickhead thing. You should have done better than that. Um, I try and look out for people. You know, like when I was younger, I was so wrapped up in my own head that it was really hard for me to be empathetic for people. I cared, but I didn't know how to show it, and I could be so agitated. Like everything was the. I know they say live in the present moment, but everything was the here and now. I'm pissed off. You know, lashing out. Um, and as I said before, I feel like a kid in many ways. I feel very immature for my age, but yet in other ways I've had to mature. You know, I didn't have a gradual progression. I just kind of learned the way you are is wrong. You've got to change because you're not going to be accepted the way you are. And that's a fucking horrible place to be. Like, I'm ashamed of how I treated my brother. I'm ashamed of how, even just last night, the way I treated him. Tell you the truth, you know, I'm no fucking angel. I never claimed to be. Because at the end of the day, I do fucking care, you know, I just feel very lost, you know. It feels like there's never been someone who was doing perfectly well all the time. Look, nobody is ever going to do well all the time, but you know, when you leave the nest, if you like, but your mum and your dad are there. They're sorted. You've always kind of known. They're like, grand, come back to us whenever you feel like, you know, say hello. But they're set. They'll be all right. They've got their friend group. They've got people, you know, to look out for them. They're happy, so you know that you're comfortable leaving. As upsetting as it might be, and you miss them, of course you do. You're like, yep, grand. And I see it with other people, and I'm just there thinking, oh, that'd be fucking nice, wouldn't it? There's my poor mum being sick, and my brother not being well, my dad having left, you know, and seems to have alienated himself from everybody. Him and his missus have just kind of dragged themselves away from everybody, having to awkwardly explain how everything, like the situation to people. I don't like really talking about it, you know, but as I tell everybody on the internet, but and then I do leave for a job, you know, and I felt independent. I did, you know, even like living with my granddad, but I was living on my own essentially because I was getting up, going down to work. I was doing all the washing up, um, washing my own clothes, making dinners, you know, appreciating stuff that, you know, like one thing I really appreciated um, when I was working and living in my granddad's place was Champions League. You know, you get home from a long day and I do my gym session after work, and or if it was a night shift, I'd get up and I'd watch a bit of Champions League. Usually get up about 3.5 hours before my shift, but I started appreciating because we could bond over the football. You know, sport has always been something, even with the most hardest of souls, that I'm like, I know tactics and all that. That's why I go through people. It's like it's nice to have a bit of a bonding session, and sport is a great place to do that for men. And we need that, you know. I'm a firm believer in that. Like, I'm not pretending I like sport. I genuinely love it, you know. I love sport, but it's always been the connecting with people, the human aspect of it. Like, I could bash someone in a tackle, but someone could tell me to run a line in rugby, you know. So, like, we could call a dummy move where you skip me and pass it to the lad outside me. And I'm like, oh, but what was the call for that? And what was the call for me taking the ball? And, oh, you know, especially from what I've experienced with Irish coaches more than anyone, we love to complicate things. We really do. Um, but no, like I genuinely do love sport. But can't you love sport and be a sensitive individual? I think you can. Um, there's a value to having empathy and sensitivity. Not being a doormat. You know, it's hard to have the perfect amount of every desirable human feature, you know. Like, I can be highly empathetic, but I can get walked all over, you know what I mean? Or I could be too aggressive, then nobody wants to go near me. And if you're a father, you know, and you're very aggressive as a human being, your kids are going to be scared shitless of you. They're not going to come to you for advice. Whereas if you're in a calm manner, like the lad that lived next to us, Kevin, I hope he's doing all right. He was a great fella. I hope he's still alive. But the poor lad was riddled with cancer. He showed me and my brother how to look after our garden. You know, and he let us use his ride along lawnmower, and then we were blemming around in the oak. I put a few videos of it up. Um, that was so peaceful, you know, in the summertime. Come back from work and or on my day off, and I just do the grass in the sunshine, and you just be going around. So one time I took off too fast, and I started doing fucking wheelies. But he was a great teacher. He showed us how to do it. That's what a good man does. They show you how to do it. They train the next generation how to be good men. Because I think that's something I'd definitely like to improve. And I've tried since I've moved down to the countryside. I take joy in chopping wood and, you know, doing bits and bobs around the house, fixing stuff as well. You know, it is good. You do. It's very therapeutic. It is. The thing I didn't like was, as I say, the construction environment where people are screaming at you. There's so much fucking noise all the time, and the slagging that goes along. Some of it's funny, like it is, and like there's a lot of good lads, but it's a very macho, toxic male environment. Um, and I do think you can try a different approach. Like, sure, you could just say, oh, the young generation are soft. You know, they're just soft. You know, they're weak. That's why um, these jobs aren't getting filled. Maybe we need to try a better approach. Maybe they want to work with their hands, but they don't want to be screamed and roared at by some arsehole. I think that's reasonable. Now, if you're fucking up in a job and someone tells you and calls you out on it, you 100% you have to be willing to take criticism. That's fair. You know, you can't be a snowflake in that regard. Not everyone is going to say, good job, man, good job. You know, this fake American stuff that we have. Um, the smiles all the time and have a nice day when we don't fucking mean it. um, I'm sure there's plenty of Americans that do mean it, but you know what I mean. The rubbing your fingers together for a tip. Um, I always get a parched throat. That's why I have my water with me. Like, not every man is going to be a big, strong, hulking Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger type. I've met good men that are, you know, not necessarily the best with their hands, but they look after you in whatever way you can. Like, let's look at my second cousin Stephen. Shout out to him. When we moved down here to Wexford, he opened up his holiday home for us. Let us use that while we were waiting to move in here. When I had questions about financial advice, because he's an accountant, he gave it to me. Couldn't have been nicer. That's being a good man. Yeah, he's not the best with his hands, but he did what he could and he helped, you know, and that says a lot. And I think he's a good man. Like, he stood by his wife and kids. They all seem to be doing very well. It's not all about being the big fucking army man, you know, with bulging muscles and like we think it is. Um, be a teacher as well, you know, show people how to be better men for the future. Show them how to build things, how to repair stuff in the house if it breaks. You know, my mum has actually shown me a couple of things. She's nifty enough, so you can get an idea of what my granddad was like. Um, yeah, just so upset that I never got to meet him. You know, technically I did, but I wasn't even a year old. Um, yeah, it's one that upsets me when I think about it. It really does, you know, because I think to myself, is he proud of me? Is he proud of what I've done? I'm trying. I'm trying, and sometimes I do wish I had an older brother or someone who could have just shown me something. Like I've older cousins who just never made any effort with me. They never bothered their arse to contact me. I made all the effort with them, and they still didn't want to know. They didn't care. Anything that was difficult, they just didn't make any effort at all. And then when I make an effort, I'm expected to do fucking everything for everyone, being used and abused and taken advantage of, and I won't be doing that anymore. But to those who deserve it, I will help them out, and I'll always have time for people who look after me and have my back. You know, um, I now know what loyalty is, and I'm willing to give it to anyone who'll give it back, 100%. Because it's a rare thing to come by. So if you get it, look after it, hold on to it. Yeah, it's a deep dive. I know I'm kind of going over some things I already spoke about, but I wanted to just bring it all together because I think now more than ever we need good men. We just taken it for granted, and it's not an easy thing to come by. And if you don't give young men a good role model, something to base their life on, they're going to seek it out somewhere else. They're going to seek it out in the local drug dealer who gives them a lot of money and promises them flash cars, women, and all this stuff. They're seeking out a male role model. Young men will do that, more so I think than young women. Young men are seeking out someone who they look up to and aspire to be like. That's something I don't see getting spoken about as much as I think it should be. Some people are talking about it, but why do you see in so many criminals, young men selling drugs and have a list of crimes as long as your arm? um, but why do you think they're like that? You always hear the same thing: motherless home, the father was in jail or left the family, the mother was a drug addict or alcoholic who lived on her nerves. It's always the same shit, isn't it? Because if there's no strong male role model in that family, the young fella's going to seek it out another way because he wants to feel secure. And how does he feel secure when he joins a gang? A grooming gang. Someone will say to him, "You will be rich beyond your wildest dreams, but you're going to do this for me." Then they've got you, and then there's no getting out of it, even if he wants to. Um, so either, like in an environment without a strong male role model, young lads will get into trouble. They get arrested. They'll take their own lives. Life will just become too overwhelming for them. It's only natural, and I think we've got to do more. I certainly hope that in the future people will consider me a good male role model. I really hope they will, because I would like to be someone who they look up to and think that fella, is a good lad. He's someone who I aspire to be like, that I know he has my back. He's a man of his word. He means what he says and he says what he means. He's firm but fair, he looks out for people, but he's also not going to bullshit you. He's going to say it like it is. Like it is. Just a good soul, I hope to be that. I hope to be a good role model for people in the future. And I think that's a good place to end it, guys. Thanks for listening, and be a good role model for the younger generation. Lead by example. Be a good person to look up to. God knows people are crying out for it now. So let's do it. Let's be better. All right. See you in the next one.